Coulter, I was in Bozeman for the Bobcat game a couple of weeks ago, and while I was there, I went over to the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter and headed into the brand-new Cathedral of Guns, Selway Armory. It was absolutely phenomenal. Their new store in Bozeman is everything you want and more, including a Sig Sauer store right in the Selway Armory store.
Got some confusion from a couple people listening to this podcast. They said, what is Sig Sauer? And they spelled it like cigarette. But no, we're talking Sig Sauer like Sigsaeur. Some of the best handguns you'll find anywhere. They're experts when it comes to Sig Sauers, as well as all other handguns, as well as all other firearms. Locations of both Missoula and Bozeman. But get your butt to that new Bozeman store. It's a beautiful store, unbelievable inventory, and those guys are experts. They'll help you find whatever it is you need.
Hunting season, recreation, we all have people on our Christmas list, or maybe it's you yourself. Yes, I must say, once in a while it's nice to get your own self a present. You go in there, all of the guns, ammunition, accessories that you could imagine, and Coulter, as you mentioned, absolute experts. They know everything there is to know about the entire inventory they've got. Online, SelwayArmory.com. Montana is a gun enthusiast state. It's a hunting state. And Selway Armory is Montana's firearm superstore.
Take the Selway Armory Challenge. Shop with Selway Armory for a year. Guarantee you're going to save money over the big box stores or anywhere else you might shop. Do yourself a favor. No matter where you're from in Montana, if you're making your way through southwest Montana, go see that new Selway Armory. And if you're in Missoula, go check out their location out Stockyard Road. Selway Armory, great products at a great price, along with world-class customer service.
Good. All right. Just get into some kind of opening thoughts, remarks, observations about the University of Albany. I think this team reflects their head coach in a lot of ways. Coach Gattuso is a defensive-minded guy, tough guy, very much a team that I think plays with a discipline that they make sure they do not beat themselves. I mean, they do not make a lot of mistakes. They do not give up a lot of explosives. They're top 25 in the country in turnover margin. They don't get penalized a lot. I think they're just a very disciplined team, very well-coached team. They take advantage there on offense. I see a lot of things that they're doing game plan-wise to try to take advantage of things that perhaps have shown up on film or weaknesses that you have. And I think they've got the personnel to exploit those weaknesses. Defensively, they're very sound. They're not a heavy blitz team. Probably one of the teams this year that we played that blitzes percentage-wise less than anybody. They play a lot of quarters coverage. They keep things in front of them. They have a very good defensive line. And so that's kind of what I see is I see a team that is playing in an excellent league, the CAA, played a lot of tight games, found ways to win a lot of tight games because they didn't beat themselves. And I just think that's a tribute to coaching. I mean, it's so many times, and I've been a part of them too, where you don't lose the game. You let somebody else lose the game, and that's what they do. And so I think that's a big time deal that they're doing on offense. Their quarterback, Undercuffler, redshirt freshman. I mean, this guy's doing some historic things in terms of the way he's throwing the ball. Very confident, big arm, big strong kid. Team rallies around him. You can see as you watch them throughout the course of the year how his confidence has increased. He makes less and less mistakes every week and attacks the field with more confidence. Their run game, which I think is really a critical part of their success when they get that run game going. And last week was kind of an anomaly. They really didn't get the run game going against Central Connecticut, but they didn't have to because they had so many open access throws in the RPO game and down the field. And so I think that's something we got to pay attention to. But 21, I really like this running back. I mean, he is an excellent, tough runner. I think, sometimes you see guys and you're like, hey, he's a good FCS back. I think this guy could translate to the next level. Low center of gravity, 5'8", around 220. Very tough tackle, bowling ball. I mean, he's a tough guy to bring down, so I like that back a lot. They have a veteran and experienced offensive line. Number 11 has 70 receptions and is a legitimate deep threat, but number 4 is special, I think. You look at a guy who's got 16 touchdown receptions. It doesn't matter if he's double covered, he's not covered, because Undercuffler has trust and confidence in this kid, and he will go get it. He is a dude. 80 receptions, 16 TDs. I don't care if you're playing Pop Warner. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And this guy is a legit, I think, NFL type of guy. He's got top end speed, runs good routes, attacks the ball in the air, and he's a major problem. He's a major problem. I like their tight end 86 as a complimentary guy. He's very important to them in their run game. A lot of their run game goes through him. Probably an underappreciated guy, I would guess, in their offense. But this offense is built around run the ball, RPO, shots. We have a 5-game breakdown with 56 vertical shots, okay? You do the math. I mean, these guys are going to attack you vertically. They've got the personnel to do it, and they've got a quarterback with a big arm and confidence to do it. And so that is going to be, obviously, a huge part of their success this year has come through explosive plays, and that's going to be a big part of this game is our ability to try to limit those for them. On defense, I talked about it, not a huge pressure team, but they don't have to be. They got a guy number 12 who's got 14 and a half sacks. Their interior D-line, very twitchy. I mean, they're not overly big up front, but they're very, very active. I really like 97, 92, 94, and I talked about 12 as a pass rusher. I'm a D-line guy. Coach Gattuso's a D-line guy. He likes D-linemen. His D-linemen play well. They're good players. And so they create a lot of problem, not so much with the blitz, but a lot of post-snap movement, not stemming pre-snap, but aligning in one shade and then jumping a gap to the other. They're very quick. And that's the challenge that they present inside. They get a lot of negative plays, and they don't have to, as I said, they don't have to blitz a lot because they're capable of getting pressure with 4 guys. And so really like those guys. I think 23 is a really physical safety. They've got 2 big thumper inside linebackers, 44 and 45. They wad things. They play downhill into the line of scrimmage, and that's a problem oftentimes in the run game because offensive line-wise, those guys always want to do is they want to try to create double teams and then push to the next level. Well, with those downhill linebackers, it makes it a little bit of a challenge. And so like the way they play the game a lot. On special teams, number 10's been kind of in and out, but that guy can really go. He's got a touchdown return this year already. I just think it's a really good, sound football team that is, very clearly deserved to be in the tournament. And with the way that they played in round 1, and I think it's going to be a very challenging matchup for us on Saturday. Questions?
How do you think last year's playoff experience might help this year?
I think every year that you get an opportunity to do this, you learn something. And so, I made some mistakes last year, and I think it was not so much in terms of how we prepared for the second round game. It was the fact that we kind of, we eked in, so to speak. We had to win out down the stretch, and we got a first-round win, and then it was like, oh. And I forgot, hey, we got finals, we got all this other stuff, and so our kids were kind of distracted, I think. And so having a better plan going into this as far as, hey, last week was about 3 things. It was about family, it was about school, and then it was about taking care of your body, sharpening the saw, worrying about our fundamentals, not an opponent. And this week we got to focus on school. We got finals next week, and so that can obviously be something that can distract young men. The weather is a factor to a certain degree this time of year, but the ability to just compartmentalize, I think, is something that I learned from that experience a year ago. Being able to take what's going on at this very moment, block everything else out, and just focus on it. And I don't expect that our kids are going to have that complete ability, but my job as a head coach is to try to help them do that. If that's the biggest takeaway I had from a year ago was you can't really worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. You got to take care of today, whether that's I got to get this paper done, get this presentation done, don't procrastinate. All those things will start to pile up on you as this time of year comes around. And so that's probably the biggest takeaway I had is just, my job is to look at some of those things that are maybe on the horizon, but most importantly is to keep our team and our coaching staff focused on this moment at hand.
You mentioned wanting to recharge your batteries last week. Do you feel like you have now? Do you feel like there's kind of a new energy, I suppose?
Yeah, I thought our guys really, we came in on Saturday and our guys had good energy. This morning they had good energy. And so, now it's all about preparation. It's all about digging in on the opponent, making sure that, we can go play fast. I think there's a tendency sometimes to, you're in the playoffs and it's, it's the second season and you need to reinvent yourself. And I think that's something you got to guard against. You don't want to all of a sudden put too much in for an opponent and not be able to go operate at a high level. And so really right now this is about us, finding out how we can best attack this team and do it in a way that's not going to require too much thinking for our guys so we can go play fast.
Undercliff is a guy who just shattered a school record, throwing 6 touchdowns last week in that win. So, what's the key to stopping the momentum that he's riding?
Well, yeah, I think there were some open access throws that he operated very well. And I would say this. I would say their coaching staff, I feel like, did a tremendous job of adjusting to how they were being played defensively and attacking Central Connecticut in the second half. So what does that tell you? They're good. They know what they're doing. They know how to operate. They're going to have eyes in the sky, and if you're going to consistently play them in a certain fashion, they're going to take advantage of it because you give one-on-one opportunities to number 4, he's going to find him, and they're going to make you pay because they're going to take enough shots, obviously, down the field that the law of averages catches up. And so I think critically for us is to not give them any one look. I mean, it's almost the same story all over again, right? With these quarterbacks that are playing at a high level, you can't just sit in one coverage. You can't just play one leverage. You can't let them know what's coming because they're gonna exploit you.
You talk about the transition and the challenges of playing a team that you've never played, that has no like opponents. Do you go into the coaching well? Do you find any resources to kind of get some background on a team like this? You talk about those challenges.
Yeah, if I had the ability to, I would. I mean, I just don't. I'm not connected. I know this is going to sound crazy. I've never been to the state of New York. Most of the guys that play for Albany have probably never been to the state of Montana. So there's not a lot of crossover, And I think if it was a team from the Southeast, I could reach out to some of my connections down there. Team from the Midwest, team from the West, but there's certainly not a lot of familiarity. But I do think stylistically there's some similarity. And so I think that, you are who you are on film after, 13 games is what we've got to look at on them. And so it's, it's going to come down to nothing that somebody tells you about their style or any of those types of things is probably going to have a huge impact on our preparation. We got to just look at what we see on film, do what we do, and I'm sure they feel the same way. So I think it's always good to be able to exchange information. I mean, the coaches hotline in the Big Sky Conference is always comical to me. The longer guys are in this league, the more they know each other because it's a very homogeneous league. A lot of guys stay in this league for a long time. So during the course of a week, especially because you have this unbalanced schedule now, so if you're not playing a team, they'll be more willing to exchange ideas with you and information. And so we don't get that same kind of hotline between Albany and Bozeman right now.
You mentioned they've got to make the trip here. They played in front of, I think, 1,600 at their stadium last week, coming here to Bobcat Stadium. How do you feel? Elevation, all that playing in factor?
I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I think all that stuff's overblown. I mean, I do. I think you're going to be here for less than 24 hours. I mean, I guess they're getting here on Thursday, so maybe a whopping 36 hours. I don't think that's time for your body to get all jacked up on the elevation thing. So, I'm sure that's something that they can think about. But, we played at elevation, and I didn't pass out in 7,000 feet or whatever it was in Flagstaff a couple years ago. And so, I think that's kind of one of those things. This is about the two teams between the white lines. This isn't about the elevation, the crowd, all that kind of stuff. This team has played in good environments. I mean, they played at Richmond, they played at Delaware, they played at Central Michigan, they played in bigger environments. And I think that this, obviously we're hoping for a huge crowd. I mean, that's the biggest thing I'd say. Our students are still here. They don't have to pay for tickets because we've got all these awesome people in this community that are willing to step up and allow them to enjoy cheering for their home team one more time. And I tell you what, man, it makes an impact. I know that having those guys packed into the Sonny Howland end zone is an important thing for our guys. We feed off of their energy, and I know how important this program is to this community. And so we're excited to see if we can get a great crowd to support our guys. And certainly a home field is it's better than us having to go there. I would say that. And so, the committee felt like we deserved an opportunity to host a game, and we're appreciative of that. And now we got to back it up.
Let's say after the North Dakota game, you made a logistic change with Coach Miller and Coach Armstrong being together on the sideline. How do you think that's paid off?
Yeah, I think that's always something you've got to examine. And hopefully you don't get to a crisis point where we've got to really do something to shake things up. And I felt like we weren't probably quite there. But, there was definitely a change that needed to take place. I didn't feel like the synergy between those two was as good as it was a year ago. And I think that the change has really been good. And I give credit to, we put Eric Frazier up the first week, and then we brought him down and put Denarius up because there's a few less moving parts in terms of our substitutions with the running backs than there is with the wide receivers. And I think he and Nate Potter have really kind of grown into their role upstairs in terms of being able to help Matt and Brian and Nate are, they're connected at the hip anyway in the run game preparation. And for those guys to be able to kind of communicate during the course of the game, what are the fronts, what are the blitzes that are giving us problems, how can we attack those? That's been a really good team. And I think Denarius, with his quarterback background, being able to kind of give Matt some suggestions has been helpful as well. So I think we kind of found what works for us at this point. I know Matt, big picture, I think the offensive guy, for the most part, wants to be upstairs where they can see the big picture. But I think he's done a really nice job.
What do you think Josh Hill has brought to the defense, especially later on in the season?
Experience, leadership, production. I mean, probably those three words would come to mind immediately if you asked me about him. I think toughness almost goes without being said because of all the things that he's been through physically. But he's just a really smart football player. I mean, he studies the game, and some people don't have Josh. I'm not saying Josh doesn't spend hours on end doing this, But some people don't have to. They see it once or twice and they know it. And I worked for a guy one time and he was talking about, we'd get angry about this one player. I won't mention his name because most people would probably know who this person was, that he's never in here studying film. He doesn't set an example for the other guys, but all he does is just go out and play at a really elite level. And the coach looks at him and says, hey, the great ones just know. And you kind of have some of that with Josh. He just kind of innately understands this game.
Seems like number 12 on the edge, they do a lot to kind of get into one-on-one situations. You dealt with a little bit of that with Obina at Sac State. Do you see any similarities, and how do you kind of mitigate a guy like him?
He's longer and I think faster than Obina is. Not as big, but if you get in third and extra long and this guy gets one-on-one with a tackle, it's going to be a problem. And so, there's some things that we've got to do. Being aware of his location is going to be important. And that creates, there's some issues in terms of, if you're going to slide the protection one way, they just move the guy on the other side and they can fix that, And so we've got to be able to be smart about how we protect. And we got to have success on first and second down. We can't get into third and extra long. That's not good for us anyway, stylistically, but in particular because of the talent of their edge rushers.
And how important are those negative plays to them? It seems like with some of that base stuff and not a lot of blitzing, it's all about negative plays.
Yeah, they're not a team that leverages blocks up front. I mean, they're not going to try to strike you and create knockoff. Not that they don't do that periodically, but they're going to jump a lot of gaps. And that's kind of, instead of blitzing, they play very aggressive with their interior defensive linemen, and that allows them to, create some creases and get some negative plays. And they do a really nice job. I mean, it's a very good team. It's a very good team.
Stylistically, it seems like a team from the East Coast may be a little bit different than a lot of the teams you play on the West Coast. Do you see stylistically, just in the overall breadth of the team, a difference coast to coast?
Maybe the one thing that stands out to me, and this doesn't necessarily have anything with the East Coast, West Coast, or anything like that, but maybe just by league, is how wide open this league is. I mean, we're one of the best defenses in this league. God's talking, so don't worry about it. This is every day of my life. That's why we're glad to be getting a new facility. It's just snow coming off the roof, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry about a thing. Getting back to the question, which I can't remember now, to be honest with you. Oh, yeah, I got you. No, I hear you. So we were talking about the league thing is interesting to me. So, like in the Big Sky Conference, I think we're one of the better defenses in the Big Sky Conference. We're like 39th in the country in total defense. Okay, offensively, we're middle of the pack. We're like 20th in the country in total offense, which I would have never guessed. The only reason I did that is because I did a comparison of us, just our national rankings to Central Connecticut and Albany in the off week. And because obviously you can't look at league stats and go, okay, this is who this team is. You almost have to take this national approach. So what that tells me is like the Big Sky is clearly one of the more wide open conferences in the country in terms of the offense. I mean, I think Eastern led the nation in total offense and didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, so it's a crazy way to look at it. And I think I think that just speaks to, the spirit of the West. I guess we're a little less conservative, a little bit more wide open, and all that kind of stuff. But I think the one thing I know is their style travels. They run the ball, they play good defense, they don't turn it over, they don't penalize themselves. That to me is why they're a second-round playoff team with the opportunity to keep playing, because all this stuff that we just talked about. Plus, they got good players. And I think they've done. I mean, you got to tip your hat to this group. I mean, this is a team that was picked, I think, preseason last in their league. I don't know how many games they won a year ago, but it wasn't many. And here they've been able to flip the script, and really they have a good group of seniors. But this freshman quarterback has come in and really changed the confidence of this team on offense and their ability to kind of stay in any game, because he can throw the ball 70 yards to number 4 like that and changes everything. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we'll go from there.
You talked about not wanting to reinvent yourself. Just how happy have you been that you've been able to, keep running the ball and do that, and that it's paid off for you, especially the last few weeks of the season?
Yeah, in this time of year, there's a lot of coaches that probably sit there and go, "Gosh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I wouldn't have done that." But I'm never going to look back and say, I wasn't who I am. I mean, I'm not going to have any regrets about this is what I believe football's supposed to be, and this is how we're going to play football in Montana State. And if it doesn't go my way or our way, and, I become one of the cast of thousands that, gets the call on Black Sunday or Black Monday, I can live with it. But I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. And so, I think that's kind of the way it is nowadays.
You guys have been so good with your backs against the wall the last 3 years in November, especially this season. Now you're a team that's favored with a home game in the playoffs. How do you think that differs from the last couple of years? How do you hope to seize that?
I hope that we approach this game exactly like we have our backs to the wall, because we do. I mean, it's win or go home, playoff football. We're not playing in the, whatever bowl game that we've had a month to prepare for and trying to figure out if some of our kids are, got one foot out the door. I just hope our kids are still hungry, which I think they are. I think the energy they had this morning showed that, and I think we're excited to be able to play some more football.
Bryce, just kind of how has he progressed since he came over from Washington?
I just think a lot of confidence would be the thing that, obviously he's played more football, so you get better at football by playing football. You don't get better at football by watching somebody else play football. And so the opportunity to play a lot of downs here has, I think, benefited him and allowed him to showcase his abilities and talents. But I also think the fact that he's been able to produce has given him confidence, and it's what we all need. You got to have somebody who believes in you, and you got to believe in yourself, and I think he's gotten to that point.
You like what you've seen from him, specifically playing at defensive end this year?
Yeah, his numbers are better. Yeah. I think that's one thing that, we moved him from Buck, which was kind of the showcase position in terms of being able to get after the quarterback, to field end, and he's actually been more productive. And so I think that speaks to, number one, it's been nice to have Andre on the other side. But I think the other guy that made a sacrifice to do that, whose numbers probably went down, was Derek Marks. But that doesn't diminish his importance to our team. And so I think that's probably maybe a little bit of an underlooked piece of this too, is we needed to find a way to get all three of those guys on the field simultaneously.
You've been on the FBS side of it. How much fun is the FCS tournament part of it?
It's hectic. So here's the difference. Like today, I don't care who you are, you're on the road. If you guys follow Twitter, everybody had their home visit pictures last night. Well, that's round one of the home visits, right? So that's what you're doing right now. If you're in bowl prep as an FBS coach, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, you hit the road, and you're doing home visits. And you usually get back on Wednesday night, and or Thursday, depending on your schedule, how far out your bowl prep is. If you're playing a New Year's Six bowl, it's a little different than when you're playing a Christmas bowl because you're compressed. But you're juggling recruiting, sometimes official visits with game prep. And here it's like, you're in season mode. You're just, keep grinding, and this is what we do on Monday, this is what we do on Tuesday. We still got to be able to juggle the recruiting piece and make sure that we're kind of protecting our turf, because everybody's out, all the vultures are out, and everybody's trying to poach everybody's guys right now. And then you got the coaching staff changes, and you're going to have this late wave of, don't sign in here because you never know, we might take you over here. And so it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on this time of year for us. But it actually, in a lot of ways, it feels good to be able to just stick to your routine a little bit. And then it feels different, like Friday, Saturday to me feels so different because the stakes are so much higher. It's not, hey, we finished on a high note this year. Unless you're one of four teams, really, unless you're one of two teams at the end of the day that play for a national championship at the FBS level, the tournament's different. I guess those four teams, that's it for them. But this is, I think it's special and unique, and should be celebrated. I think it's an awesome way to go about it.
And not to put you on the spot, but do you think it's the right way to determine a champion?
Yeah, and trust me, I'm not making that decision. So I don't think anybody's going to Google what Jeff Choate said about the playoffs. So, that's above my pay grade. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Selway Armory, Montana's firearms superstore, is now open for business and hiring all positions. If you want an exciting job with great compensation and one where you can become an expert in the field, put your application in now at Selway Armory. You can apply in person at their new location at the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter, or send in your application via email to employment@selwayarmory.com. That's employment@selwayarmory.com. Turn your passion into a profession with Selway Armory, Montana's firearms superstore.